evening and welcome to episode 2 of Tottenham Fans Have Your Say. With me, Lee the Dorset Spur. I'm joined tonight by one of my really good friends, Jason. Jason is a part of the South Dorset Spurs, ex-chairman of South Dorset Spurs, who I know really puts an awful lot of effort into keeping that alive and making sure we all get to go to games and have a really good time, albeit the football might spoil that for 90 minutes. But listen, great to have Jason on here. He has been on the Shooting the Shit show as well. So good to have him here just to kind of chew the fat, talk about Tottenham and see how we're all feeling at the moment. So, Jace, welcome. Good to have you on, buddy.
Thanks, mate. I feel really honoured. It's just us two. It's kind of cool, really. There's normally other people on the screen as left. So, yeah, it's nice to have a bit of a one-to-one tonight. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, no, it's good. It gives us a chance to kind of just chat and all this bit, because normally you're really, really busy. Whenever we meet up, you're really, really busy, and you're kind of talking to this one and that one, and you're promoting the club and trying to organise something, or rushing off to pay someone for our parking, or organise breakfast or whatever it might be. So we kind of chat, but we don't always get a chance to kind of just have a sit down and proper talk about football in a kind of calm and collected way, given everything's so rosy at the moment.
Yeah, rosy. We can use that in the loosest sense of the term, I think, especially after last night. But yeah, no, we spent many periods talking at the rear of the minibus, all things Tottenham. So it'd be nice to do it on camera for once. But there we go.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. So I know you was at the game last night, so that might kind of impact some of your answers tonight. But we'll start off. Let's start off right, nice and easy. Let's talk about why are you a Spurs fan? How is that? Where did that come from? And all the rest of it. How long have you been a Spurs fan? All that kind of stuff. And I'm getting abuse already in the comments from Dean, which is a little bit.
Oh no, really?
I'm a cheating slut because I'm talking to my good friend Jason. Well, sorry, Dean. I've got to diversify and give everybody the people they want to see.
Hello, Dean.
So yeah, just give us a couple of minutes. How did you end up being a Spurs fan? What's that about? Being from, because you're from Dorset, right? So
no, not originally. No.
So okay.
A bit of a story. So I grew up in Devon. I grew up. Well, I was born in Exeter.
That's even further.
Yeah, I know. It's even further on the minibus. And I grew up on a place called Exmouth, which is another seaside town, a bit like Waybeaver. Right. And I was a 70s baby, just about 71. Grew up there, and born there in that area. And first and foremost, it was football. So my first memory of football was really the 1978 World Cup final, watching that on the telly with the ticky-tack coming down in the stadium and Kempes and all that sort of stuff. And I was kind of hooked in from a really young age. It was like I just found it magical. I just thought, wow, this is great. And I tried to, after that, take in as much football as I could. It was quite limited in those days. You remember? It was quite limited on the thing. So, the odd game would be on, and some of the big cup finals, the European Cup finals with Forest and in the early 80s, sort of Aston Villa and bits and pieces like that. But I was a glory hunter, Lee. I was a glory hunter in 81. Right, back in the purple period of being a 10-year-old. I think a lot of stuff is influenced by your family. So you're in the playground and you muster all your friends around to play FA Cup or whatever that you did. You either did that or I don't know, played war or something. I don't know, run around like idiots like we did at 10 years old. And I asked my dad, what team do you support? Because everyone was in the playground doing this, that, and the other. And he said Tottenham Hotspur, and I was like, wonderful, great. And Grandad, yes, Grandad used to take me when I was a little boy. So Dad basically grew up in Chingford,
right?
And, and then as I find out more about my family history and that, a lot along sort of the gasworks at Edmonton and stuff like that, the late 1800s, early 1900s. And there's a wonderful cinema at the top, just through Edmonton, just opposite Silver Street. There was a wonderful cinema called the Regal, I think it is. It's got a wonderful Art Deco sign on the outside of it still. I think it's an NHS help centre now or whatever it is. but my father used to go there as a little boy. So all of that area is, I had a bit. So I tried to trace one of my family to play for Tottenham, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But they certainly went to the ground, for long periods of our history. So 81, Glory Hunter, FA Cup final, Saturday afternoon at Exmouth. My father invites a friend across the road over for a beer, and we're all sat there as the lads and having a cheeky sip, watching Tottenham draw. I think it's 1-1 the first game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
1-1, and they scored first. I believe I seem to remember. And then we watched the replay, and of course Ricky Villa and all that stuff. That one of the greatest. It was voted one of the greatest goals ever to be scored at, in a cup final for many years. Ryan Giggs aside, and obviously various other people that scored goals, but that was a thing of beauty. And I got hooked in even more, and Tottenham was my team. Yeah. And then, but I never got a chance. I joined the army in 1988, and then 89, one of my training parties said, "Would you like to go to White Hart Lane?" And I was like, "Oh my God, since a little boy, I've always wanted to go." And we went there, and I think we paid £4 or £5, I can't remember. Stood on the east side. I don't think it was the Shelf then or whatever. It was the northeast, the east sort of north corner area. And I just thought, this is again. I was hooked. But after that period, through the 90s and all that sort of stuff, I was away a lot. I was abroad a lot. And every time I came back to England, I'd do my best to get to a game at least once, once or twice a season. And then sort of towards the end of the sort of time in the army, which is many years later, we were moving towards the finale. And I just had enough membership points to then secure a season ticket when we went to Wembley. And just about, I think it was about 35 to 40,000 on the old level. I was about tranche 8 or something of offerings, and I thought, I'm going to get this. This is me. I'm leaving the army now. I'm going to be at home. Well, I'm not going to be at home because I'm going to be at Tottenham every 2 weeks. So that was it. And ever since then, I've managed to get to most games certainly at home, and then quite a few, through friends and stuff like that, because we never got enough points to go away, but through our contacts to go away as well. Great experiences at Dortmund and some of the grounds games around some of the grounds around the country, like Newcastle and places like that. Although we've not been particularly successful in those of those grounds, but I've managed to get away. So it's as I say, from 78 hooked on football, 80, 81 Glenn Hoddle and all that, hooked on Spurs, and here I am. So suffering like everybody else is.
It's amazing, really. Like, I love the idea of just kind of picking it up from family all that way down in Exmouth. Like for me, 78 was my first World Cup that I really kind of got involved in, and I just remember the ticket tape and all the rest of it, and that's what made me. I was just going up to senior school then, and that's what made me want to go to football. My friend Leslie Knight, he asked me, what team do you support? I said, well, I don't really support a team. I love football, but I don't really support a team. And he was like, well, we're all going up to Tottenham. Why don't you come with us? And that was it. Because it was 1978 when Ozzy Ardiles and Ricky Villa were bought, and they had all the ticket tape being flown and all the rest of it. We'd just come up from the second division, and they were throwing the ticket tape and all the rest of it. And it was just magical, and it kind of just brought it all back. And I was hooked. From that moment. And lucky enough, I know Bill's just mentioned on there about it, the 81 FA Cup. Lucky enough to be in that stand to watch that happen, to see Ricky Villa score that goal. That it's as a nearly 60-year-old man to have that memory is just so cool. Like I just love that, and I know there's lots of us all around that kind of age anyway, but to actually be there at that time. My mate got me a ticket. I think I paid a tenner, which was well over the odds for that game. And afterwards, we went to Trafalgar Square and was dancing in the waterfall bits and all the rest of it. Such a great time. I was just a kid at the time, 15 or something like that. So absolutely loved it. And it's funny, football does that, right? Football kind of brings us together, because I can remember meeting you the first time was at Wembley when we first got our season tickets, and we went to Wembley. Remember when we went to the Torch, and we were kind of new to the group and all the rest of it. It was a really cool opportunity to kind of get to know people. So, but football kind of brings us together, and all these years later, we're still involved, and we're still doing it. And, and we're still suffering and still harping back to 1981. As a great time. It's just crazy, isn't it? Just crazy. So listen,
go on. Sorry, Lee. I was going to say the Wembley experience. I think it changed the dynamic of how I watch football, because I used to go to Spurs on my own. I'd get there just before kickoff. I'd leave straight after kickoff. Get myself down to Seven Sisters and away. And now it's become more of a not more of a social event. I suppose it does really, because there's so many of us that get together before and after the game to have a chat about the game. Yeah. Whereas in the old days, it was just me, just going up there on the tube or the train or the bus or whatever. And then it was a different kind of experience. I think it's a totally different experience for us all now. I think for me, it's a lot better. And I think that helps with the therapy of getting over things last night, because I think I'll be stewing otherwise a lot more.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Like I say, I think the supporters club is really, really important. So, like for me, like South Dorset Spurs has really made a community of it. Like the other get-togethers and stuff we do, the banter the bus on the way up there is always good fun. The bus on the way back is always good fun. Win, lose or draw, it's always good fun. Seeing people like Paul Davis dancing around and wobble with his kazoo and all that kind of Billy Woodhouse doing his jig, and do you know what I mean? It's stuff that kind of other people won't see, but we kind of live through that. And it does give you that therapy, helps you laugh it off and think to yourself, it was really worth the trip, because you think we leave at stupid o'clock in the morning sometimes, get home stupid o'clock at night other times. And that 90 minutes in the middle, like, it can really kill it, or it can make you weak, It's really, really important. I shout out to all the guys from South Dorset Spurs, and also all the other people we meet up with, your Deans, your Sweary Alex, your Mason and Ricky Randall, and there's so many people you can't really name them all, because there's so many of them. Sonia, who we always meet up with, there's so many, all the different people from all the other different supporters clubs that Tony kind of brings into it. And I've met some people, Leo from Mile High Hotspur in America, and people like that. And it's so great to kind of bring everybody together. I love all of that. of that. But listen, let's talk about how you're feeling at the moment, right now. You can either answer this question of the perspective before last night, as a general, how are you feeling? Or you can answer it about how you're feeling now because of last night. I don't know. It's up to you. But as a Tottenham fan, how are you feeling about Tottenham at the moment?
Oh, man. So sometimes you have to walk away from social media. And I think last night was one of the best examples of put the phone down, walk away, and just because I went to the game. Obviously, I saw how we performed, and I saw the bit at the end. I almost left the seats too early. I was ready to climb up the steps to get out because I was fed up. And then I turned around and I saw our manager heading towards our away fans, and I thought, oh no, this is not good. He's actually, I think he was alone at the time, and he then got some other Spurs people sort of come a little bit closer to him, because I think they felt that something may go off, and it was. But I don't like to see that. I didn't like to see it. I know we didn't perform well. There's been moments throughout the season, and there's more than there should have been, of where we really haven't turned up. Ipswich and your Crystal Palace and all the other clubs that we expected to go there and beat, and we just never turned up. We just weren't at the races. And then the thing that, as we talked about earlier, the thing that hooks you back in is Man City. That's going to be the one. But then you think, did Man City save him? Was that the defining moment that may have saved Ange? But then we're in the next phase of, is he going to go again? Especially so. The explosion. I shouldn't use the word explosion, but the emotion, the explosive emotions that went on after that game, especially after what Ange did, it ripped through everybody, I think, and it's been a massive debate. Now, when Ange's team is on fire, like it's the well-tuned Ferrari that it can be, it's absolutely fantastic. But when you've got 8 to 10 players out, the wheels will come off. You've not got that structure. You've not got that team that needs to be able to play the way Ange wants them to play. And he doesn't appear to have a plan B. So he's going to play like that way no matter who is in the squad. And that also is the frustrating thing. We would expect it to be adapted a little bit, fall back a little bit, do a bit more, defending rather than trying to attack, leaving themselves exposed. And who would have thought that Fraser Forster would have been the hero in the last couple of games? Because if you look at it, between all the players that are on the pitch, he's the one person that's, I know he's messed up a couple of times, saved us. Last night could have been 4-5-6-0. If it wasn't for him. And that then brings the question mark. So how am I feeling? Well, I have to motivate myself to go on Sunday. So I try to get over these things pretty quick. They're coming thick and fast. I was at Roma. I was at Fulham. I was there last night. I'm going to be there tonight. I'm trying to get to Southampton away. Then Man United in the Carabao Cup and Liverpool. Oh my goodness, Liverpool. So it's relentless, and you've got to think that he's either gonna turn it at the corner in the next couple of games, or we're going to be back to the starting again. Unfortunately, I just want us to turn up on Sunday. I want us to at least try more than we did last night. When we see people
frustration, right?
Yeah,
that's the bit, I guess, is the real frustration of how it's almost like we've just become really, really passive and not interested. Like, just going back to your original point about seeing Ange go over to the fans and getting abuse from the fans. For me, that's a real worrying sign, because that's quite unusual. The away fans are fantastic generally. You go to away games, you'll see a lot of the same people. They are all, very supportive of the team and so on. But to see them kind of abusing the manager, which, whether it was just an isolated incident or whether there was a lot of it, I don't know. And I know Daniel Levy gets loads of it, but that's Daniel Levy. Probably he deserves a lot of it. But to go at the manager in an away game is quite unusual. Home games, I've seen it, but never an away game. So I was really quite surprised at that.
Well, we've seen it a couple of times in the stadium. There was a guy that had an interaction with him, or whoever it was, when he came through the tunnel, towards the tunnel. The days of sort of Ange walking towards the south stand and loving Ange instead seems pretty distant at the moment, to be honest with you. People are starting to have a bit of a pop. And I'm with you on that. I mean, the Bournemouth away end is probably about just over 1,000. Yeah. So you're talking people who have got, 400 or 500 points and would have, dedicated their lives quite consistently over the last few years to go and watch Tottenham. So they're going to be emotional, aren't they? So, but to see it, it doesn't look good for us as Spurs. It doesn't look good in the media. To see that so publicised by Amazon Prime last night on the television, as well as they will dig deep into that, and all the papers would dig deep, and it's a poor reflection. And it wasn't just Ange that got the pelters at the end; it was obviously the chairman that you start to hear that as well, where it starts to bring out the chance of we want to change in the board, to put it mildly, and it's a difficult thing, and I'm not one that's been stood there and protests and stuff like that. I've quietly murmured about my displeasure, but there comes a point though where you think maybe it's not going so well, and maybe we do need to do something. But we've been through, since Pochettino, we've been through this cycle with the elite managers and various other people that have dipped in as well, and it's really not worked out. So I never know where we're going to go with it. When Levy said in that forum a couple of seasons ago, I'm pleased we've got our Tottenham back. But at the moment, it's Tottenham from the mid-90s. It's not. It's not the. It's not
Yeah,
what we
no,
talked about earlier of 81, 82. So
no, no, it's not. It's not those. It's not those teams of
or
the of
Pochettino.
'61 of push and run
Yeah,
and exciting edge of the seat stuff. It can be. I mean,
yeah,
it's so difficult, isn't it? Because it is so reactionary football. Like I love watching football. I love watching Tottenham. It's in my heart. Always has been. It will be to the day I die. And I'm always gonna keep supporting my team, regardless of whether Daniel Levy's there or someone else is there, or whether Ange is the manager or not the manager. Right? It makes no difference to me. Right? But I always want to support the manager who's in place because it's not an easy job. It's a really difficult one. The media will love it. They'll be loving the discomfort that he's going through and trying to build a story and get clicks and all the rest of it on that because they'll be talking about that for days if they really can. But I guess the real difficult bit is how do you put your finger on where it's actually going wrong for him and what can he actually do about it? Because, like you said, he hasn't got a plan B. Now, he's not a stupid man. I'm sure he could work out a plan B if he wanted to, but he basically just believes in the way that he plays football is the right way. And that's going to bring success because it's brought success for him in the other places he's been. Granted, they're not the Premier League, right? And when it clicks, it really does click. We have seen some good performances this year. Aston Villa, West Ham, the City one, obviously Man United. We've had a bit of luck in that, but you always need a bit of luck in football matches. The problem is when it goes wrong, it really does go wrong. And my worry around it is, yeah, we've got loads of injuries, so that's one problem. But we have had periods where those players have been there and we've still lost games and
yeah,
played poorly. The other issue then is talking about how they're really tired because they're playing 2 games a week instead of 1 game a week, which then means that they're working too hard, which is crazy when you consider these are prime athletes with all the right food and nutrition and all the rest of it. And so that then brings you on to, well, the squad's not big enough. Yeah, but Ange agreed on the players that we bought, right? He said that himself. So he agreed these players. So it's a case of is the rebuild that we're kind of going through just so far behind where we really want to get to? Because I think in terms of buying players, he wants to buy a certain type of player with a certain type of attitude and a certain type of background and all the rest of it. So you can't just go, oh, right, we're going to go and buy this guy and we're going to spend the money because we've had our fingers burnt umpteen times with these expensive players, right?
yeah.
So, like for me, that's where I worry is where do you put your finger on what are we doing wrong?
Yeah.
And how much patience is good enough patience? And because people are saying it's been 24 years and this, that, and the other. Well, Ange hasn't been there 24 years. You can blame the board for all the other shit, but you can't blame Ange for that. But where are we going to go? How does it really start to change?
I I think there were positive signings in the summer for me. Bringing youth in and it gets developed, and then we develop into a team. If you look back at Man United, when everyone went, you can't win anything with kids. I think that kind of philosophy of encouraging the kids to come through, and then like Archie Gray and Bergvall and all the rest of it, encourage them to come through, and maybe next year or the year after, they will blossom into this fantastic footballer. That's the dream, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
But what we have done, I mean, you talk about strength and depth. If you look at the beginning of the season, if you said you're going to lose Vicario, Van de Ven, Romero, Bentancur, Richarlison, that is going to devastate any team, let alone Tottenham Hotspur. So we did have strength and depth. The depth has just been wiped out, completely. So we have played badly with those people in our team, but I think we've more of a chance with them in our team, if that makes sense. It's just it just ups that capability.
It gives you the option of swapping, right?
The options off the bench. If they're not quite fit, they can come on at the 70th minute and potentially change the game. Which sometimes Brandon Johnson was used in that So he'd then come on 70 minutes and run people ragged and go down the right wing and put some crosses in, and fantastic. And I think he's trying to do the same with Timo, although Timo's a different podcast altogether. So
Yeah.
it's but he put a good cross in for the other day. But as I know, Ange is probably getting pelters for making excuses the other day, but some people are worrying about just having lost just one player like Rodri from Man City, and they've completely fallen apart. So not completely fallen apart, but over a 5-6 game period, they were in trouble with regards to results. So, and that's Man City. So we basically just pulled the rug under Andy's feet, and now he's getting pelters, and Levy's getting pelters because everyone's saying he didn't invest enough in the summer for us to have any backfill. Well, those same people that he could have bought in the summer could all be injured like we are now. So,
or they could turn into an Ndombele or a Richarlison, right? That's the thing that bothers me. Like, people say, "Oh, you needed to go out and spend and get the right players in the summer." But what if those players weren't available? What if because people will talk about Eze, right? So we'll use him as an example. Nobody else has looked to Eze. Nobody else is. So he's not like high on everybody's shopping list and a must-have for us. I'm not saying Eze wouldn't have been a good player for us. He probably could have been. But the point is, there must be a reason why they didn't bother going. And it ain't all going to be about the money. Like, because I see someone talking the other week about Arne Slot being the manager at Liverpool and what he's doing there. And the fact that basically Daniel Levy didn't want to pay his release clause. Well, I've got a friend who's a Feyenoord fan, and he actually told me that Arne Slot didn't want to leave Feyenoord because he wanted to stay and finish what he'd started before he looked for another adventure. Right. So this narrative of we won't pay the money, I don't think is really true, because you think how much they were paying Conte and Mourinho, 15 million a year, and so on. I think the money's there for the right person at the right time, and if they think it's the right move. The problem is our view of what's the right move and their view of what's the right move are different things. And he hasn't got a good track record of buying, top quality players. And we talked about Dybala on shooting the shit on Tuesday. There's a prime example of a player we really could have done with, who would have probably been really good for us, that we never ever bought.
We got linked with him for about 5 years, 6 years, maybe longer.
Yeah.
Dybala's coming at some point, but he never did, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it was all, and the idea was it was all about money, but it wasn't. It was about his image rights and being third party owned and stuff like that. So there's lots of. So the trouble is, what I'm saying is, there's lots of stuff we don't know behind the scenes. We don't know behind the scenes whether the players that we wanted weren't available, or the players that were available were not the sort of players that Ange wanted or fitted the bill for what we actually want to get. And the fact is, we were able to get the young 18-year-old kids that we want to blossom into these brilliant players. Fingers crossed that's what's going to happen in time. But you need something for now as well. But the ones for now weren't really available to him. I don't know. It's a real difficult one without being involved in the transfer conversations or being really good on FIFA, so every player's name. I don't know, because that's where a lot of these people get their ideas from.
At the beginning of the season, if you said, right, this is our squad and this is how it's set up and all the rest of it, like we were, with everyone fit, I was kind of okay with it. I wasn't too bad, let's see how the season goes. Season optimism, woohoo! Let's start like we did last season. 10 games unbeaten, and let's start pushing. But it just hasn't worked out that way. The Bentancur thing, I think it's more serious an impact to the squad than people, probably haven't really thought about, because that screen in front of Van der Ven and Romero is probably one of the most important roles we've got in the way that we play. And to lose him in the Premier League for 7 games, Sarr, great, but he's still got his faults. And Madison's nowhere near it, playing anywhere near that kind of role. So it leaves us completely exposed at the back. And I think that's where a lot of the problems come from. We've shot ourselves in the foot, right the way across the board. It's either injury, suspensions, or players just aren't up to speed at the moment. They're even losing their fitness because of the training methods and playing too many games, or they're just off it. And last night was a great example. Ipswich, the game against Ipswich was another great example of where it's all going, Pete's on really. So my expectations are always high at the beginning of the season. You've always got that wonderful pre-season smile on your face. I'm really looking forward to it, and then it all goes west, like it did last night. So we've got to look forward to the second half of the season, haven't we? With everybody coming back, and we're still in the cups.
Yeah, that's what we said last season, right? When we had all those injuries, we said, if we get all the players back, maybe we'll get back to where we were in those 10 games and all the rest. Didn't quite happen like that. It didn't quite happen like that. But look, I'm with you. At the start of the season, with all the players we brought in, okay, a lot of youngsters in there, but a lot of youngsters with potential. But you wasn't expecting to have to rely on them. I mean, Archie Gray, people are coating Archie Gray, which for me is crazy, right? The lad's a midfielder. He's playing right back, left back, centre back, right? And he'll change within the games what he's doing. Doesn't complain, gets on with it, puts a shift in. I'm not saying he's, the finished article, but you can see that there's a really good player in there. You've got to buy him now at 40 million, because if you don't, in 2 seasons' time, he's going to be 130 million, and you ain't never going to buy him. It's a bit like the Jack Grealish scenario, isn't it? We could have got him for good money. Had Levy paid the money, we could have had a Jack Grealish in our squad, as opposed to him now being £100 million footballer and, who sits on the bench for Man City. So it's fine margins all the time. I felt that the squad looked good. We finally had an out-and-out striker back. We had a backup in Richarlison if we could get him fit, because we knew, Richarlison we knew can score goals and has scored goals, bar his, mental health issues. But when he started coming back, he started to look good, and we thought, right, okay, maybe this is the way. But then his legs have gone to Weetabix, and we've lost him for God knows how long. So, you kind of looked at it and you thought, well, Maddison's back now, and we've got this young kid coming in who's a super wonder kid from Sweden, and Kulu's playing out of his skin, and and a lot of the players were multifunctional. They can go in different positions. So I kind of thought, all right with it. Come January, if we can get a couple of others to bolster it. But the problem is we've kind of been relying on the same players all the time. We haven't been able to really blood the youngsters into some of these games, or give the rotation that we really wanted. A lot of fans are calling out saying we should be playing Spence instead of Porro. But clearly Ange isn't convinced.
I don't know. Porro made a little bit of a difference. He's more offensive, isn't he? So he had a cracking, 30-odd yard shot that got blocked last night, and a few other.
Yeah, it was a good shot actually.
And he was trying to link up with Kulu on the right hand side quite a lot, but it just it just was too late. I think he tried to rest him for Chelsea. Him and Son tried to rest him for that match at the weekend, and again it backfired. And Son is, off the boil at the moment, and we all know that. When he does come up to what his usual standards are, it's absolutely fantastic. But he's losing the ball left, right, and Chelsea. Let's hope not against Chelsea. But he was losing the ball. They were all losing the ball last night. They couldn't string more than 3 passes together. So
the whole team was doing that last night. I felt the whole team was just misplacing passes all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all we can do is just look forward to a few of the main players coming back again. Certainly Van de Ven. He's critical to the whole process, really. Romero, got some powers.
Van de Ven does give you the option of you can push on, and you've got some level of cover go at. With Romero, you've obviously got the offensive element of his game. The biggest thing with him has been losing his bloody concentration. That's been the real disappointment with him, and kind of gifting away goals. But what he does give you is that offensive play. Chips in with a couple of goals as well. So which is something that we're struggling with at the minute. Is actually getting the goals. I still don't think Solanke's probably back to his full fitness, given that he was out with an illness, and if he had the same kind of virus that Mikey Moore's had, to be able to come back so quickly, because we needed him, is credit to him. And I didn't think he did too badly initially, apart from the fact that he just really didn't have any service. He couldn't really get into anything. That's how I felt anyway.
Yeah, no, it's just crazy at the moment. Even the guys coming off the bench yesterday, just trying to make a difference, and it just wasn't happening. And I do worry for Sunday. I really do. I mean, Chelsea, that game when we went down to 9 men or something.
9. Yeah.
We had 2 guys sent off, I think we could have equalised in that. Dyer scored. Did Dyer
scored? Yeah, it was
disallowed.
Got offside or something. It was a great goal as well. It was a very tight offside, and I think you know what? If that had got in, I think it'd have been a different game.
It was crazy to play like that, and that's the difference between that and last night. We tried so hard in that game, even with just 9 players, and we could have equalised. And it's probably one of the first times that ever I've seen the team applauded off for losing, 4-1. I think it was. And
I think I did a video. Sorry, I think I did a video that said "lost but proud."
Yes,
I felt it was a really good performance.
Lost but proud sums that up, and then the difference between that and what we just witnessed in that and a couple of the games this season. And
so that says to me, sorry, but that says to me it's that this is about the players, right? Because you're sending them out with the same philosophy that he had last season, the same philosophy that we had that beat Man City, that beat Aston Villa, that beat West Ham and so on. Sent them out with that same philosophy, the same way of playing and all the rest of it. And yet they're returning that level of performance. So that kind of says to me, this is on the players, not necessarily the manager. But then it comes back to this point I just made about rotation and freshness and all the rest of it. But then I get annoyed about the fact that these guys are multi-millionaires playing football for a living and can't play 2 games in a week when we used to go out on a session on a Saturday night and still get up and play football on a Sunday, even if you were spewing your guts up, you know what I mean, after 10 tequilas or, whatever it might be. It's just really annoying, isn't it?
Do you know what got me last night? And one of the biggest things that I took in last night, now, no disrespect to Bournemouth, and obviously you live just down the road from the Vitality. Was it 13,000 people that can fit in that stadium? Tiny.
Yeah.
I didn't know most of the players that play for Bournemouth. And I thought to myself, every other week I sit in this magnificent theatre, this magnificent stadium. I'm so lucky. And yet, why wouldn't I be satisfied to come to Bournemouth and watch football every week? They're 40 minutes up the road from me.
Yeah.
What a wonderful club. What the way they played, the way they knocked the ball about, and the happiest people, And I think, up the road, supporting this team that really couldn't give a monkeys tonight, and I'm really fed up. You know what I mean? And I thought you well done, Bournemouth. You've really taken us to the cleaners there, and yet we should be streaks ahead. We've got all the finances, all the resources. Infinite, really. As fans, we think we've got infinite resources.
Yeah.
Of this £1 billion stadium and all the rest of it, all the bells and whistles come with it. No, Bournemouth, little old Bournemouth. Pop the balloon.
They're a good side though, weren't they, Bournemouth? I mean, yes. I'm slagging off our players, but Bournemouth played really well last night. Their performance, they should be proud of. I thought they
100%.
They did all the things that you wanted our team to win. They were strong in the tackle. They were offensive. They didn't give up. They did all the running and all the rest of it. Luckily for us, they didn't have their shooting boots on, to be honest. A lapse in defensive is the difference between it. So, 1-0, a 1-0 loss. If we'd have only had one chance in there, if Solanke had that opportunity early on in the game, it could have been so different. So you've got to give credit to Bournemouth, to do that. People talk about little old Bournemouth now, but they've got a backer who owns the club and that as well, and they've come a long way. I can remember going to watch Bournemouth with my boy. I think they were probably in the second division then. I think big Steve Fletcher was still playing and that, and I've been to see them, in the old stands where you stood and all the rest of it. But their rise to the Premier League is is fantastic, and long may it continue. I mean, I've got a lot of respect for Bournemouth being sort of fairly local to them. So, but I thought they played really well last night, and I thought it kind of they did everything I thought that we should be doing, but didn't, and that's the disappointment. But like I say, with the Chelsea game last season, we lost, but I was proud of the way we lost because we put everything into it. We left everything on the pitch. Last night, it was the complete opposite. The same against Ipswich, the same against Brighton. They walked off the pitch and need to look at themselves in the mirror and say, was that my best? Could I have done the best that I could have done? Because you have to take responsibility. Your manager can give you the direction, but it's up to you to get there, right? It's up to you to make the right decisions at the time, because you can't plan for every eventuality. You've still got to turn it on. You've still got to put the effort in.
That direction, though, is quite critical, I think. I mean, a lot has been criticised of Ange for just standing there on the touchline. That direction must just sort of end at the dressing room door. And then he just comes out. Because we had the complete opposite with Conte. And Jose was a bit of theatre, he'd jump up and down and all the rest of it. Conte was a different beast altogether. He'd be up and down the touchline like a maniac, and even had Conte cam on at one stage, as far as I remember. And but Ange, he clearly sets the team up, and then he might as well not be there. He might as well be in the stands. He might as well do what the rugby people do and go up, level 3 or whatever with a microphone on or whatever, the old earphones in. He seems to influence zero on that side of that pitch. And you'd think in a critical, in a difficult situation, you'd see a little bit more passion, a little bit more guidance for the guys, especially the young guys,
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that's lacking, and it's a little bit disappointing, to be honest with you. I would have expected a little bit more. When we saw the clips of Ange at Celtic, and we were thinking, God, this guy barks at the don't effing pass it back and pass it forward and all that kind of stuff, and you saw this emotion that came out. It doesn't seem to be there at Spurs. I don't know why. He seems to have changed tack.
Maybe he's been browbeaten by the fact that they're not doing what he wants them to do, or not delivering what he's expecting. Maybe his expectations of what they can do is higher than what they can do, and it's frustrating him to keep saying the same thing. But having kind of managed football teams as obviously kids and stuff like that, even that you can't help but get involved, right? You can't help but get involved and say, you need to be over there, or you need to make that run, or watch this player or whatever. But he doesn't seem to do anything. It does drive me mad as well. I've got to be honest. I get really frustrated with that. The lack of. I mean, I don't want him to be Conte, because Conte was all about Conte, right?
Yeah.
His theatre was all about him. We was all at that Southampton game when he did his famous rant and all the rest of it. And we were all really, really disappointed with that game of how it ended up and the collapse and all the rest of it. But if I remember, we were quite unlucky in that game. I think we had a penalty given against us, or a free kick or something like that, and so it just didn't go. It didn't go our way, but we just collapsed in the whole thing anyway. And he ranted off and all the rest of it. But that was all about him saving face. It was all about him being able to walk away from it as if it wasn't his fault. Do you know what I mean? Whereas the thing I've liked about Ange is that he does take responsibility for it and go, right, this is my problem. I want to be here. I want to be the coach. I want to see us through and make us successful. Whereas with Conte, I always felt like he just wanted to take the money and hope that with his reputation he could turn it around.
It's all about me. Yeah. No, it wasn't good.
And that's why I was happy that with Ange kind of coming in, I felt that he was, at least he was committed. But I do worry that when you've got like we said earlier, when you get your away fans giving you a bit of a coating on the sidelines, calling you a fat cunt, which ain't good, right? Then that's he is a human, right? He's still a person. Yeah. It's not very nice, is it? I don't think I'd like it.
No, not at all. It's as I say, we kind of the impact of last night's hit everybody, and we've probably covered out quite a lot of what the negatives are from last night. I've got to think of some positives. Got to think of some positives going forward because.
But look, let's go back. Let's go back a step, right? Let's go back a step and ask this question.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this season, bearing in mind this is season 2 for Ange. We've had a transfer window. I always felt that this transfer window was more about getting players out than getting players in, because we've cleared out a lot of stuff. We've only got Reggie left of the so-called dead wood to kind of move on. So at the beginning of this season, I had my expectations of where I felt we should go. What was your expectations of this season? What was you expecting to happen? Like, was you expecting a top 4 finish? Was you expecting a run in the cups? Winning a cup? Where was your head at to say what do you think is going to be the ultimate end of this season?
So, I rarely ever think we're ever going to win the championship because it's never happened in my lifetime. So, that would be a Leicester City type moment for me. We predominantly were a cup winning team for many years, and we had a great trophy cabinet. I know people take the mick out of us now because they say we haven't got any trophy history, but actually we have. But it's now in a distant past. So, but when we went into the Europa League, I was confident. Sometimes you get these little inklings, and I thought we've got a real chance in that Europa League. So that for me was really the expectation. And then we've got the Carabao Cup, and I think had it been still under Ten Hag with Man United, I'd be a lot more confident than I am now for that 19th of December fixture.
Yeah.
So I think that potentially could be the first sort of cross on the cup run, as it were, but we'll see. Then we've got the banana skin of Tamworth in January, which, believe it or not, at 7:10, I predicted on a text to somebody that we're going to get Tamworth away, and I screenshot it and went, "There you go, look at that." So all the balls. So that was quite a funny moment. But that's again people lining us up to fail. So I really, really hope that does not happen. I remember in the late 80s, or maybe 88, 87, we played Port Vale in the FA Cup. And I was at Dorchester Town Football Club watching those boys. And it came over the Tannoy, the FA Cup results of the afternoon. And Port Vale had beaten Tottenham Hotspur. And I was like, oh, my God. And then, we came close with Morecambe. Do you remember? We came close with Morecambe. We had about 15 minutes to go. So, beginning of the season, so back to the Premier League, I thought we would have a real chance of getting back into the Champions League places. But there was always the spectre of Chelsea getting a new manager. Yeah. And I thought Newcastle would be a little bit stronger than they are. Aston Villa appear to be suffering from their Champions League run and falling short a little bit like we are. Strangely, I quite like Unai Emery, to be fair. But they seem to be falling away a little bit. Brighton are the surprise package, although they seem to be a little bit unpredictable at the moment. It's a crazy topsy-turvy situation in the Premier League. Probably one of the weirdest set of results we've had. For Fulham to win 3-1 against Brighton last night, there's some real coupon breakers there, isn't there? So
it's mad. It kind of give you the idea that anyone can beat anyone. Like any team can have a bad result and all the rest of it. Nigel's put up on here, right? That we need to be seeing progress. He was expecting to see us challenging for the top 4. I'm quite surprised. I'm quite surprised Nigel saying that, to be honest with you. In my mind, I think I did a pre-season video with Chris Carlin, and he was asking people where do you think you're going to be, and I went, 5th, 6th, maybe if we could. But I could see us kind of having a good cup run. That would even be my preference, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not a fan of top 4. I'm not bothered about playing in a competition that we're never going to win. Like you, I don't think we're anywhere near winning the Premier League. So for me, FA Cup win would be immense. After we've
amazing.
talked about the 81 final, I would love that opportunity. to do that again. But again, when I saw us against City in the Carabao Cup, I thought, okay, just get through Coventry, and how difficult that was to pick up the bloody worst team you could pick up. So to beat them, I'm like, our name's on the cup. You get Man United, you think, well, they're all over the place, and then all of a sudden they get rid of the manager, and you think to yourself, well, that's buggered that idea up. That's buggered that idea up. So it's one of them. But like in my head, I was never thinking that we're going to challenge top four or be pushing for the Premier League. So like I'm quite sort of settled that we're going to have these ups and downs during this season. He said that it's going to be tough. You're trying to change the whole culture of a football club from the top to the bottom, from the owners to the fans to the players to the coaching staff. You're trying to change everything. And I said a video or so ago about how kind of disaffected we were, disjointed as a fan base. No connection to the players, no connection to the managers, and it was all over the place. Just feel like we might be heading in that direction now, if I'm being honest, because we're so fractured as a fan base.
It's a case of who's going to blink. You know, it's a game of poker, isn't it, at the end of the day? Because we're waiting for... When Levy blinks, that's it. It's game over for Ange. The away fans yesterday blinked and showed their displeasure. They showed their hand to say, this is where we're at the minute. So the next step is Levy, really. But I think, look, we've got so many crucial games, and they're coming so thick and fast at the moment. And then no game in the Premier League is easy. That's the problem. And it's been proved last night and through the results over the last few weekends and all that sort of stuff. So I think if we can get through this period, then we'll be okay. But it's relentless. And you know, once Mr. Daniel upstairs says it's game over, that's it. So we're back to square one, and Ryan Mason probably taking us to the next stage. But
I just don't know if I've got another rebuild in me. Like,
is it rebuild? Is it rebuild, or is it just, you know, like you said, you know, the rebuild was all around Pochettino's era. Rebuild after the Champions League final.
Yeah,
but it didn't quite develop like that, did it? Let's be honest. You know, we it's taken us this long to get rid of the people we should have got rid of a couple of seasons ago, potentially. So everything takes time with us, doesn't it?
We did buy some of them after that as well, though, to be fair.
It's taken this... It seems to take ages to get through, you know, the procurement phase and the consignment phase. You know, get out, get gone. I want you gone so I can buy somebody else, like, you know. The
interesting thing I thought about the Pochettino thing is that people talking about Pochettino and that all he needed was, you know, those extra bit with some really good purchases, and that would have made us world beaters and stuff, right? The one thing I thought about it a little bit today. I was just pondering on it, and I thought, well, since Pochettino left, he went to PSG to win the easiest league there is, and struggled with that, right? With Messi in his team and this sort of, you know, you think yourself, well, they don't get much better than that, and he couldn't really do an awful lot there. And then he went to Chelsea and did that stint there, and all those players he had in there, unlucky, I guess, to lose his job in the end. But given all of those players he had there, quality players, he never won anything there. So would he have really made any difference? Would it have really made any difference whether he got great players or not? And I think, you know, to be fair, I think Daniel Levy had his head turned by Mourinho, because I think he always wanted Mourinho as his manager at one point anyway. And I think Mourinho came along and went, look, you've got great players here, and we did have a great squad then. All you need to do is have a good winning mentality. I can bring that, and I think that's what turned his head. And the other thing I was going to say, which I wanted to talk about or say about previously, is that it was Pochettino who wanted to sell Kyle Walker and replace him with Kieran Trippier, right? People go, oh, Levy just took the money, 50 million quid for Kyle Walker. Pochettino told Kyle Walker that he wasn't part of his plans and he wanted to go in a different direction. That's why Kyle Walker left. right?
Yeah.
And Levy took, and I'm not sticking up for Daniel Levy, don't get me wrong, right? But people laud about Pochettino, and I loved him. I loved the football, and I loved that period, and getting to the Champions League final, all that kind of stuff, right? But he wasn't perfect. At one point, he was talking in, excuse my French, fucking riddles. And then he's selling the best right back in the league because he wanted to have Kieran Trippier. And all due respect to Kieran Trippier, he is not Kyle Walker and never has been. And he's been on to PSG and to Chelsea and not really done anything with them. So, I do think it's a little bit of a fairy tale, I guess, that it was always just a few more players would have made all the difference. Pochettino would have left us the glory.
Always reminisce about the good times, don't we? Always reminisce. That's what we talk about.
Right?
The early '80s, because Keith Birkinshaw and and Pochettino and Terry Venables and all the rest of it, and what would they have done, and what would that's the beauty of football. That's the beauty of it all, really. But I think we both like Ange.
I do. I like the way he talks. I like generally speaking, I like the way he talks. I like his empathy. I like his the fact that he's human. The way he talks about things. When they talk to him about players' mental health problems and all that kind. I like that, and I like the fact that he says things like the fans have got the right to dream and they've got the right to criticise and blah. He comes across really, really well, down to earth, and all the rest of it. I like his philosophy in football. I just don't like him standing on the side with his hands in his pocket, shaking his head, and I don't like the fact that he doesn't seem to make a change when you need to make a change, whether that be a substitute or a way of playing. That's the bits that really get to me when you can see it yourself.
We'll look back in a couple of years ago. I wish I had Ange. I wish I had him. Reminiscing like we do with Pochettino occasionally, but
yeah. It would be good to be able to do that, wouldn't it? To be able to look back and say, well, actually, Ange was good. He did some good stuff for us. He did take us forward, because whatever comes after Ange, God only knows. I mean, where do we go? Where do we go from here?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it?
Yeah. What's the answer? There's lots of fans out there going, Ange has got to go, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But what then? Where are we going?
The next few games, I think, is going to be quite critical over the span of the Premier League, because if Wolves lose, they're potentially going to lose O'Neill. If West Ham lose, they're going to potentially lose their manager. If Ange loses in the next couple of games, he would potentially go. So all of a sudden, you've got all these spaces being created around the Premier League. You've got people like Graham Potter knocking about, on the sidelines of the commentary teams, waiting in the wings for potentially one of those jobs to go into. And you have to wonder, is Levy potentially looking at those scenarios as well and thinking, who am I going to have next?
Do you think Graham Potter is the answer? Like, the reason why sorry to jump in, but like we talk about Graham Potter, right? Graham Potter was lauded because of what he did at Brighton. Well, Brighton had done all right without him, and he did a shit job at Chelsea.
I think he built some building blocks for where some of the success for Brighton is now. I think it was, and he came from abroad. I think he came from Scandinavia before he went into that. And he changed some of the philosophy and some of the football practices in Scandinavia and became quite successful with the team he did. So I think that's why he was lauded quite so much as a young manager that was coming in to make a bit of a difference. Is he right fit for Spurs, if we're asking? Then probably I don't think so. But I don't know what the right fit is for Spurs at the moment. After Ange, so we've tried every possible scenario. We've tried, I think, Harry Redknapp, I like quite a lot, and look what he achieved with, getting us into the Champions League originally, and AVB and people like that. These European managers that we tried and didn't quite work out, and then we went for the pinnacle of management in Conte and Jose Mourinho, and that went west as well. So where do we go? I really don't know. I really don't know what the manager pool is. I know we went for Ten Hag before Ange, didn't we? I think we standed him out, and look how that ended up. So it's
Still picked up 2 trophies, though, right? Still picked up 2 trophies. So
he did, yeah, absolutely.
So on that basis, Tottenham sack Ange and bring in Ten Hag. How does that feel?
Oh,
Do you know
I'm
what
not
I mean?
saying that either. God, that would be controversial. Your ticker thing would be going mental right now.
Yeah.
No, a couple of years ago at Ajax, he was seen as one of the best managers around, and he was unlucky, to face us at the time when we had Lucas Moura scoring hat-tricks. So otherwise, he would have got to that final, and who knows what would have happened. But at the time, he was lauded. But I don't think he's a fit for us either, really.
I think the biggest people for him is it feels like is around his people management. He seems to fall out with players big time and create a toxic atmosphere. And I think Man United's a toxic atmosphere anyway. I think they've got rid of. They're as bad as us for not playing for the manager and getting them the sack and all the rest of it. I mean they probably need to look at themselves as well. And I think that's probably where our players are. They probably need to take a good long look at themselves and go, look, do we want to lose another manager? Do we really want to start all this again and look for something different again? When we can put in a really good performance, it's a case. Like for me, I just think maybe we need to keep building. We need to keep bringing in players, the right players to give us, that depth. But a depth that allows him to still play the sort of football he wants to play. Because it's no good just bringing in players for the sake of it if they don't play the way you want them to play. If you're, you need a replacement for Van de Ven. That replacement isn't Ben Davies. As good as Ben Davies has been for us, you can't replace Van de Ven with Ben Davies. Do you know what I mean? You can't replace Romero with Dragushin. They're 2 totally different players, but you need something to play the same style of football. You need similar players to slot into those positions. You need 2 players for every position that play in a very similar way or can learn to play in a very similar way.
Yeah, 100%. Going back to the managers, though, Man City were going through a particularly bad patch recently, and if they carried on that, they would have lost Pep. And can you imagine? He would have had a few more scratches on his head coming to Spurs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Could you imagine Pep Guardiola at Spurs, right? Could you even imagine, like, would he even be able to do anything with this squad? Like, because I've seen people go, a better manager would do a better job with these players. And I think, well, I don't think so. I don't necessarily think so. You might get a bit of a bounce and stuff like that. But if the players are not playing for Ange, then what makes you think they'll do it for anybody else? Is it an ability issue or is it a will issue? Is it because they don't want to do it or because they can't do it? That's the question. And I think, when you see them really turn it on, you think, well, they can do it. They can do it. We can see what Maddison brings to the party. We can see what Kulu brings to the party. The late runs in the box from Johnson. You can see what that does. Timo Werner. And I've not been his biggest fan, but some of the crosses that he's put in, you think yourself, like, at the top of his game, he can do some of this stuff. So it's that quandary, and this is why we end up doing this stuff, right? Because we could talk about it forever. I've just looked at the ticker. We've been talking for over an hour. Can you believe that already?
Oh, mate, apologies. Ranting on.
But we could talk all night. Yeah. We could sit here and literally talk all night about football and about how we play and what's the right answer, what's the wrong answer, and all the rest of it. But the truth is, we haven't got the answers. We're not in it enough, are we? To really understand it.
We're just the punters, aren't we? We're just the punters. Yeah. We're just the punters in the seat or the standing area or whatever. And that's what football's all about. We do it enough, don't we? We talk about it enough. It's crazy.
We've been through a few shit games and all the rest of it. But one thing's for certain. At about 7:30 on Sunday morning, we'll be getting up and we'll be finding our way to our pickup points and going on a bus to go all the way up to White Hart Lane for a 4-hour journey to do it all again. We'll be there. We'll be doing that. We'll be going to the Gilpin, having our breakfast. We'll probably go into LT's and have a couple of beers. Listen to a bit of DJ Dell playing a few songs for us. and hoping that the 90 minutes doesn't spoil it for us. What's your score prediction for Sunday? Have you put one in?
So yeah, I put one into you earlier. I don't know if you picked up on it. I did one at work, and emotions were high after yesterday. So I've got, for once, I've actually gone for a loss. I think normally I can be positive and go, we're scraping 1-0 or something like that. But I think they're in great form. We're not. We are on our absolute down to our bare bones. And I hope they prove me wrong, but I think we'll probably lose 2 or 3-0 to Chelsea at the moment. Cole Palmer and all the rest of them are on fire, and I hate them. I hate them. I like Cole Palmer. I think he's wonderful, but that football club and them, I hate. I hate losing to them, and it's not as if White Hart Lane or the new stadium's a fortress to them because they continually beat us there, or just turn us over everywhere. To be honest with you, so if we can get a result on Sunday, it'd be the most magnificent thing, I think, and really bring everybody back up again. And if we don't get some sort of result or some sort of performance to support what we want to see, I think it could go a little bit toxic towards the end, which I hope it doesn't.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think if we don't put in the performance, then it will be really, really toxic. I'm expecting Levy out chance. I can expect lots and lots of booing. Potentially, I could even hear a bit of Ange out as well. I could see that coming. There is a tifo, which will be nice to see.
Yes,
nice tifo by the people.
It won't be there on Sunday because there are storms coming. So I'm surprised they put it out. To be honest with
you, yeah, we can get blown away before we even get there. I'm with you. We have a really terrible record. From they call White Hart Lane 3-point lane, don't they? And the only thing that's kind of keeping me sane about it is the fact that we've played so well against some of the big adversaries that maybe the players will turn up for that. Maybe Van der Ven comes back. Maybe Romero comes back. You never know. Maybe we get a bit more of a performance from some of those guys. We'll see. So I'm kind of the idea I'm going to go with like a 2-1 win because I just can't bring myself to say we're going to lose, to be honest.
Oh, I don't normally, Lee. You know this. I'm positive normally.
Yeah, no.
I'm normally trying to keep it there.
But this is just one of those that you just can really see it. But it would just really, really pain me to have to say that they're going to beat us. I just really don't want to say it. But listen, Jace, we've been on over an hour, and I know time's important for all of us. I'm a Celebrity is going to be on in 20 minutes. So I'm sure even these people watching are going to want to get off of here so they can go and see someone eating in a bush tackle trial. So I'm going to call it there. I'm going to call it there and say, give a big thanks for you for coming on. Really appreciate you taking the time. And I'll catch up with you. I'll catch up with you on Sunday.
Yeah, mate. I look forward to it. And let's hope we don't. Let's hope we turn up. Let's hope we turn up and put a performance because we need it. We need it now. Yeah. Thanks, Lee. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, mate. Well, good to speak to you. Thanks to everybody who's been watching. Thanks for everyone who's been commenting in the background as well. Please do feel free to like and subscribe and share all that kind of good stuff. I'll be back with my post-match reaction after the game on Sunday, depending on how well it goes. If it goes really, really well, you might hear from me on Sunday. If it doesn't, you might not hear from me until Tuesday, once I've calmed down a bit. But again, thanks for everyone for watching. Really appreciate the support. And we'll see you all again on the next one. Up the Spurs.